Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Hello, how's it going? Maverick Report back again here on the weekend after the inauguration. Such a huge weekend. Many things happened, which we're going to get into. But let's just start off with the inauguration in general because, that's the highlight of the weekend. Trump got inaugurated. There's a lot of pull from both directions, the left and the right. There were a lot of protests this weekend in D.C. and all across the nation. Most of them resulting in nothing, if not all of them. There are a lot of useless protests going on, but we can get into that a little bit later. But I'm going to start off with just Trump's inauguration in general. Like I said, a lot of people were in attendance. There were a lot of Trump fans in D.C. this weekend on Friday throughout the entire day. Most of them ended up leaving after Friday on Saturday. A couple of them remained to watch the women's protests to see what was going on with that. But after Friday, most of them were out of the city, so that's why I believe the women's protest was on Saturday. That's why they planned it not on the inauguration day, because they knew all the Trump supporters were going to be there on Friday. But coming into that, there was a lot of speculation in the media's coverage of the entire event. They didn't really show the crowd too well, and that came up in a press conference from the White House later this weekend, Saturday, last night actually. The White House came out and announced that the press's coverage of the inauguration was just completely terrible. I don't know the exact wording they used, but they just agreed that it was terrible. And the fact the media did not show that there were as many people there that they were. In fact, New York Times falsely reported that there were only 250,000 people in the National Mall during the inauguration. That's the area in front of the Capitol where all the people stand during the inauguration when they watch the president get sworn in. And the New York Times falsely reported that there was only 250,000 people in the entire inauguration as a whole, which is just complete bullcrap. And the White House came out and said that 250,000 people is the amount that fits in the first section alone. They said there was at least almost 1 million people there. And they also reported that about 420,000 people used, I think it was the D.C. Metro, and only 370,000 used that for Obama's second inauguration. So the White House came out and said that this was the most attended presidential inauguration ever. And, it's up to you to believe, the corrupt media who's been, proven wrong time and time again, or you can come out and believe the White House who was using statistics from the National Park Service. It's your option. But other than that, the media did a decent job of covering the actual inauguration itself when Trump was sworn in, like you saw before this. And it's really great. It's just really great. Trump's already done a lot of things in the first 2 days he's been in office, which I'm going to get into later. But this is just a real turning point for the United States as a whole because, we don't have to listen to the media anymore. And this election woke a lot of people up. And I think a lot more people are going to start waking up in the future because they saw how corrupt the media was in this entire election cycle. They saw how corrupt it was leading up to this inauguration. And they just keep proving themselves. They just keep proving us right over and over again. They just keep continuing, reporting false news. They just keep making stuff up, reporting on the wrong stuff. And what they should have been reporting on was just how terrible they were doing. That's the biggest thing in the country right now is just how terrible the media is doing, and the only one not focusing on it is the media. So it just shows you how corrupt their entire organization is. So other than that, on the inauguration day itself, they covered a lot of the Women's March. It was all over CNN. The Women's March yesterday was all over CNN. They spent the entire day covering it. They were covering footage from all over the country. All the other cities where the Women's March was taking place. They were covering it everywhere, and it just shows how much more they favor things that agree with their own opinions. They favored the Women's March so much more, and it was self-evident because if you had watched the news, you could just see how much more attention they gave to the actual march. Even on their inauguration day, all they were doing was talking about the Women's March that was going to be happening the next day. And the national parks, I'm pretty sure the National Parks Service in D.C. also reported that there was about, the officials, they estimated that there was about 750,000 participants in the Women's March. Oh no, it was between 500,000 and 750,000 participants in D.C., and that's less than the amount of supporters that were in the city for Trump's inauguration. So a lot of the media was arguing that there was more support against Trump than there was for Trump, but that's fake. That's not true at all. It's self-evident in the numbers, and they're just false reporting again, trying to sway the American people's opinions of how favorable Trump is, because they want everybody to think that there were more people against Trump than there was, but there wasn't. What I think the real women's march was on election day, women marching into the polling stations or the polling places and voting for Trump. That's the real women's march right there. Not this bull crap that happened yesterday where nothing happened. And yesterday was very eventful. Honestly, we had a lot of celebrities in the crowd in D.C. yesterday. Madonna, her speech, if you actually watch it, was terrible. She was basically telling half of America to go F off. It's just people don't understand that half the country or half the people that voted for Trump. They just don't understand that. They can't process it. They can't compute it. They're like, what? People like this guy? Like they just don't even understand because they're locked in their own little worlds that the media's created for them and still continues to lock them in. But other than that, we had a couple other celebrities in the Women's March giving speeches, that weren't really moving at all. I mean, the point of protesting throughout the past has been to cause legislation, to get legislation to change something. That's what it was in the civil rights movement in the 60s. It was marching, peaceful protesting against like against racism and trying to sway legislation to get rid of discrimination laws. They're not arguing. I mean, all these women in the march, if you watch it, all they're saying is we're trying to spread awareness for women's rights and trying to stop Trump from taking away women's rights. Like, name me a policy Trump has proposed that's going to take women's rights away. Like, women are more equal now than they ever have been, and they're going to continue to become more equal just based on the fact that people are becoming more tolerable of different sexes. But you're not fighting for anything. Third wave feminism is a joke. It's over. We don't need to have women's marches anymore. Women have more opportunity than ever. More women go to college every year than men. Women in their early 20s make more on average than men do. Like, it's just self-evident. We don't need to be having these marches. They're not. See, nothing even resulted from these women's marches. That just shows you how pointless and useless they are because nothing resulted. All right. After the women's marches yesterday, a lot of the women and protesters left D.C. So after the weekend, D.C. probably quieted down a little bit. But while the women's protest was going on, Trump was doing a ton. And his first day in office yesterday, while the women were all outside on the streets protesting, and while there were a lot of people out there, while these people were all outside protesting, I don't even know. I don't even know what they were protesting, but they were just out there screaming and dancing and running around. Trump filed an executive order. He signed an executive order to start to start telling insurance companies to stop taking the burden from Obamacare because Obamacare is just a failing system, and the government's been plugging it up the past couple of years by giving money to insurance companies to like save Obamacare to like just put emergency money into the program to save it, and Trump stopped that. So now he's just going to let Obamacare sink on its own. He doesn't even have to do it. It's going to do it itself. The program is terrible. Honestly, healthcare is just terrible. It should all be privatized. Healthcare won't work. It doesn't work in Canada. It doesn't work in any of the European countries that have tried it. And Trump knows that. And Trump knows that Obamacare is so terrible in comparison to these other insurance healthcare programs that he's just going to let it sink on its own. So that was signed in yesterday that no more help can be given to Obamacare because it's going to fail. And today he announced that he was going to be meeting with the leaders from Canada and Mexico to start discussing the terms of NAFTA, because NAFTA is just the worst thing that the United States has ever done. It's the worst agreement and treaty that we have ever signed. It just exported all of our jobs overseas. Our manufacturing has just plummeted since NAFTA. It just reduced the trade limits to zero. So now all the other countries send their stuff in, and we don't send stuff out anymore because it's cheaper. So he's going to start renegotiating that with Canada and Mexico, and he announced that he was going to talk with the leaders of Mexico beforehand. So I'm pretty sure while he's down there, he's going to be talking about immigration and border security at the same time. I'm not sure if he's going to stand still on his promise to build a wall. I know a lot of Americans still want it. We need to keep our borders secure, but I'm not sure what the meeting with the Mexican government's going to go like. So we have to take that as it comes. We have to talk about it afterwards. We can't be talking about it now because we have no idea what he's going to talk to them about. I don't know what a meeting with him and another leader is going to look like, based on the fact that we haven't really seen much of it in the past. So we can't speculate that much. We have to take it as it comes. And that's most of what he did this weekend. So I'm going to go back to the press conference that was on Saturday. Well, Trump was meeting with the CIA. His secretary of press, his press secretary, sorry, met with a bunch of people from the media on Saturday and told about the false reporting that happened on Inauguration Day that I was talking about earlier. We had false attendance reports about how many people were actually in attendance for the inauguration. We had false reports on that from the media that they addressed, and the White House has access to all of the numbers that the Parks Service had of the amount of people that were in the National Mall on Inauguration Day. So the White House has access to that information, and the media does not. And the White House just destroyed the media and told them how this false reporting just needs to stop. And I believe the White House is going to start figuring out a way to give information to the people that doesn't go through the media first, because they're tired of it. They don't want to keep all this speculation going. They don't like how they release information, and then by the time it's filtered through the media and gets to the people, it's half of what they said and half fake. They don't like that anymore, so they need actual ways of giving information to the people, because that's what the people deserve. The people of this country don't deserve false information. They don't need to be misinformed. They need the correct news at the correct time, and it just can't be cycled through the media, because the media opinionates it, they tear it apart, and they just give the people bullcrap that just did not happen, or is fake, or is altered, and it doesn't work. I mean, it was clearly self-evident on Friday when Inauguration Day happened. They said only 250,000 people were in attendance, and that was completely false. It was almost 4 times as much, and you can see it in the pictures behind Trump when he was standing out during, like, taking his inaugural or giving his inaugural address. You could just see almost 1 million people in front of him, and it was just terrible that the media would lie about such a thing. And they also said that Trump removed the bust of MLK from the Oval Office, which is just completely wrong. They're just trying to spread the fact that one of the greatest lies in American politics, that Trump's a racist. I mean, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. And they're just trying to spread that narrative. They're just trying to push that agenda onto people by saying that that bust of MLK was removed from the Oval Office, which it was not. Actually, Trump didn't remove any busts from the Oval Office. He actually added more. He added the bust of Winston Churchill yesterday. That was given back. He got permission from the government in Great Britain to add the bust of Winston Churchill back into the Oval Office, because he was such an iconic person from our nation's history. World War II, working with Great Britain. It just shows our alliances with other countries. That's what he's trying to symbolize by putting that in the Oval Office. He's trying to mend our relationships with other countries, and this is just clearly a first step. I mean, it's only been 2 days, and he's already done so much. You have these deals coming up with Canada and Mexico. You have talks with Great Britain. I mean, we're just trying to repair our relationships with all these other countries. So, there's going to be more to come after this. It's only been 2 days, but we can sit here and we can look into the future as much as we want. But I say we take it as it comes, and I'll be covering it as it comes, and I'll be talking about it as it as it happens. I can keep repeating myself all day, but you know, I think it's going to be a very iconic first 100 days, and if the next 98 go like the last two, then this is going to be amazing. There's going to be so much that's going to be done. We might see, a real push for the media to actually start giving the people real news again. We might see better relationships with other countries. We're going to see jobs coming back if NAFTA gets re renegotiated, and it's just going to be great. So stick with me. Let's do it. Let's look at it together, and we'll watch it as it comes. Thank you. This has been Tom Bethon, Maverick Report, episode 1.